Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast on deck for East Carolina as a trip down to New Orleans to take on the Tulane Green Wave. The Green Wave has certainly played well against the Pirates here in recent years. Tough series for ECU. Pirates riding a 5-game win streak, but to break down this matchup between the Pirates and Green Wave, very excited to welcome back our good buddy, the fifth-year play-by-play voice of the Tulane Green Wave, and that is Corey Gloor. Corey, how are you?
Doing well, Bubba. Johnny, hello again. It's good to be with you, boys.
So, looking at it, ECU 21-12-1, 6-3 in the American. Tulane 17-17, but coming off a series win out at Wichita State, the Shockers have been playing pretty good baseball. A bit of a surprise, perhaps, but what can you tell us about the season to date?
Very up and down. The record is earned at 500. Had some heavy hitters in the non-conference that were meant to test this group. Didn't win a ton of those. Got one win at TCU in a 3-game series. Lost at UCLA. Held a lead on Mississippi State in the 7th and let it go. And what kind of has transpired is a team that's just been operating in fits and starts a lot of the year. Bullpen and the relief corps has been extremely deep, and that's been the clear strength of this group. Not getting as much length out of the starting pitching as they would like at this stage in the season. And the most confusing part is that the offense has not done nearly what we thought it was going to be capable of doing. It's the second worst hitting team in the league. And that was with the talent that came back from last year's offense, with the guys that came in the transfer portal. That's been the shock here. And so the ups and downs, there's been leaky moments defensively that have been kind of head scratching, including a couple in their last game at Lamar on Tuesday. Those have been the things that have frustrated Jay Ullman quite a bit during the course of the year. We have seen some flashes. You mentioned the Wichita State series. They played great all weekend in that series, but we haven't seen it for long stretches of time. And now we're in crunch time here with 5 weeks left, where it's got to start gelling here right now if you're Tulane, because I think the pieces are there. It's just a lot of the pieces that you are relying on haven't proven to be what we thought they could have been at the start of the year.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to add, Corey, that also some tough losses. You have 6 1-run losses and a 12-inning 2-run loss. In the whole Creighton series, you had the 12-inning 2-run loss and then 2 1-run losses all in one weekend. And you only have one 1-run win, and that was that Eastern Kentucky game 1. So just some tough breaks there, really.
Yeah, I mean, those close losses, I mean, that Creighton series, Tulane never led that entire weekend and lost all 3 by very small margins. That was a real sucker punch of a weekend. Tulane was just flat out brutal with runners in scoring position in that series. They had something like $140, I think, in that series with run scoring situations. The last game at UAB, which was a sweep, and Tulane held a 1-run lead in the 9th and gave up a 2-run home run and a walk-off. And so it's stuff like that has occurred during the course of the year. I mean, the Mississippi State game is not a 1-run game, but Tulane led by 5 at the 7th inning stretch and gave it up. And so there has been that sort of stuff during the course of the year. Tough luck is there. I think the counter would be, and Jay Ullman would make the counter, you make your own luck in this sport. And you got to, baseball, you can smash the ball 110 miles per hour and you can line out. That's just part of the nature of the game. But there have been enough moments during the course of the year where Tulane hasn't put themselves in the best position to win those close games and have the luck break in their favor more than what we have seen during the course of the first 2 months of the year.
So let's hone in on the Green Wave offensively. You mentioned how it's been a bit of a disappointment, to say the least, thus far. 251 team batting average, 76 doubles definitely jumps off the page at you. And there are some familiar names. Jason Wax, 342, 3 bombs. He's one of, I think, 5 guys with 3 bombs, tied for the team lead there. And he leads the team with 33 runs batted in, and also 13 doubles.
He leads the team, and I think all but one offensive category. I think Kaikea Harrison has him in hits, and that's by one, if I have that correct. Jason Wax has been easily the best player on this team, and the record will determine who gets conference honors at the end of the year. But if Jason keeps doing this, he's a player of the year candidate for sure in this league. He's on a 60-game on base streak. I mean, it's not just the fact that he hits doubles, that he's our best hitter against left-handed pitching. And even though he's a left-handed batter and he's only a sophomore, it's the fact that he draws walks. He knows how to work at bats. Like he's comfortable in his shoes, and he doesn't need to do X in order to feel successful. Like he finds a way on base regardless, and he's solid defensively. And so he has been the complete package for a team that is looking for help around him. He was freshman team selection last year, preseason conference selection this year. We're seeing around the league not a ton of those preseason conference picks living up to that, but he is. And so where Tulane would be without what he has been in the middle of this order, who knows? Because he has been outstanding. Like, you just expect him to put together something strong whenever he comes to the plate. Even if he doesn't get on base, you expect something good to come out of that at bat. That's what he's been all year.
You mentioned Harrison, the USC transfer, second year in the program. He's hitting 284, 3 bombs, 25 driven in, 12 doubles. And Matthias Haas, just shy of 300, and that's also a familiar name for Pirate fans.
Familiar name. It's been a rough year for him. He was benched for a couple of weeks, one because he was struggling in clutch hitting spots, would leave guys on base, roll into a bunch of double plays. And then he was playing on the infield and really struggled defensively. So he actually got yanked and back into the lineup regularly in the Wichita State series. And so the Tulane will need him to start firing up, one of many. He's a important right-handed bat in this lineup that Tulane isn't getting a ton from their right-handed bats right now. And so he needs to be one of those as a seventh-year college player. And a true leader of this team. Now that Tulane wants to see that on the field in the final 21 or so games of the 21, 22 games of the regular season, because they will need him to be that. Kaikea Harrison, he's been hitting leadoff pretty much all year long. A slightly atypical leadoff hitter. He's not the fastest guy on the team. He likes to go after first, second pitches and at bats. But when he hits them, I mean, he's good for gap doubles. Like, occasionally he'll run one out. He is usually pretty surefire at short, and he just made SportsCenter's top 10 yesterday with a defensive play that he made at Lamar on Tuesday. And he plays with a little bit of a flair and an edge to him that can be pretty infectious for a team that looks for that sort of thing. So him at the top of the order, getting Matthias Haas going again. These guys are all, I mean, we could go down the list of honestly guys in the lineup that we still need to see more of from this lineup. It's really only Jason Wax that I'm not sure what more he's capable of doing. Everyone else still has more to mine in this lineup from what I'm used to seeing from this group. And you mentioned two guys who are definitely the leaders of this program that I think they know that they still need to do some more here, especially at the plate moving forward.
One of those guys that would fall into that category, a guy that I was very surprised when I saw his batting average, Tanner Chun, 10 doubles, which is very solid, and he's stolen 12 bases, which is tied for the team lead along with Ty Wood, but he's hitting just 200.
He is, I mean, he draws the most walks in the league, top 20 in the nation, top in the league in hit by pitches. His on base has him top 10 in the American, and he's hitting 200. And so, like, it's been a real battle trying to figure out where to put him in the order, because, you know, he was batting second most of the year, because that's where you put the guy that you think will be your best presence at the plate. At least find ways to get on if a guy's on in front of him, find ways to drive him in. And right now it's been walk, hit by pitch, or strikeout. Those have kind of been the three options for Tanner right now. And so now he's been hitting ninth, and just he's getting on like that. That's not an issue, but getting on with the bat has been the issue. And so that's been he's been kind of the, I guess, kind of the fulcrum, the beacon of the whole lineup as to what the struggles have been. Tulane draws the most walks in the league. They're top 15 in the nation in terms of free passes. They hit a ton of doubles, but they don't hit a ton, period. And so, and he's kind of the centerpiece of that. His stats kind of align with what the Tulane offense has been. When he's on, he can be dynamic, and he gets on a ton. Finding the spot to put him in the lineup right now where he's not always up in major run producing positions has been a real struggle, because when you saw him last year as a dynamic freshman and a guy who had some major pop out to left center, you figure this would be the guy that you'd want up in a lot of these spots. And this year it's been, can you get him on in front of people? Like, can you get him on in front of a Jason Wax or even a Kai Harrison, so that he can be the run scorer, not necessarily the run driver, because that just hasn't been his deal this year.
Any names perhaps that we've failed to mention that are new to Pirate fans and first year guys in this program that we should keep an eye on this weekend?
You just mentioned one, Ty Wood, a left fielder, switch hitter from Kansas, got him from New Mexico. And he's been definitely the strongest transfer bat that Tulane has had. His most consistent side is hitting left-handed. His best power comes from hitting right-handed. And he's been, the batting average doesn't blow you away, but he works really, really good, really deep counts in at-bats, and he can fly when he's on base. He plays a pretty good left field as well. He's been steady, and they're kind of moving him around in the middle of the order a little bit to try and really get the best out of him, because he has been, I don't want to say quietly in the scheme of this lineup, but he's done good work here, and he's definitely been the best newcomer for the Tulane offense. Trent Leolis at first base is a guy who over the last 3.5 weeks has taken some major steps forward. This guy was brought in to be a power bat. He does not have a home run yet this year. He had 16 last year at Northwestern, and it was rough sledding for him at the plate and defensively, to the point where he got yanked off the field for a couple of games. Last 13 games or so, he's batting .350. Taking a ton of walks. He is driving in runs. He's hitting them to the gap and down the line and right. He's getting closer and closer to knocking one out, but this team's just not a power team. And so they are getting closer to what they were hoping to get out of Trent Leolis here over the last couple of weeks. And that will need to continue here for Tulane as they try and just find more guys to step up in the middle and bottom of this lineup. The pieces are there. They just haven't been tapped into yet.
Shifting over and taking a look at the pitching staff, you've already referenced some of the issues with the rotation. East Carolina, of course, has had just one consistent piece throughout the season. That's Ethan Norby, unfortunately, due to the injuries sustained to Gavin Van Kempen and also Colby Weber, the talented freshman. Trace Ahajic, despite his struggles, has been a consistent piece. So out at Wichita State, you got a very solid start from J.D. Rodriguez, and then also Wagner transfer and all Northeast Conference performer during his days there at Wagner. And that is Jake Toporek. Is that right?
Yep. You got that one right. That was huge to get from certainly Jake, who has gotten a spot start here. There, Rodriguez has been kind of slotting into, he would start a midweek game, go an inning or two. Maybe he'd start a Sunday game or a Saturday game, depending on how the series was structured. Been kind of a pinch pitcher here for Tulane. The best weekend pitcher has been out for the last couple of weeks with injury, Jack Frankel. And Tulane's not sure if he'll be back for this weekend yet either. He's missed the last 2 weekends of the year. And so that is where J.D. Rodriguez has had to step in, and then Jake Toporek got the first game in Wichita last Thursday and was dynamite. And so get this. I know we'll see Toporek this weekend. I think he's slated to go game 2, if I have that right from everything I heard at the media today at practice. And Trey Sahajic, he's been in the weekend all year long. It has not been a good run for Trey. I mean, his ERA is right around 13 in his last 5 outings. This is like they need him to be the guy that they saw in the offseason. They talked a lot about the major improvements that Sahajic made entering his final year. He was pretty solid in the Saturday role last year for Tulane, and he's been the Friday guy pretty much this entire year. Got game 2 last week in Wichita, but it was a Friday night. He stayed on normal rest, and it just hasn't clicked yet for Trey, save for one game in which he performed really, really well against Eastern Kentucky. But they need this big 6'8" right-hander to be the guy that they thought he was going to be in the offseason. He's averaging 3 innings a start, and for that to be at the front of your weekend, the bullpen's been taxed, and it's been good, and it's saved Tulane in a lot of spots. But they need more length out of Sahajic. They need more effective length out of Sahajic. And then, Jack Frankel getting back. It's not as many injuries as what East Carolina has in the weekend rotation, but it's a big one right now for Tulane to not have him. He was anchoring Sunday, then moved up to Saturday, and now he's been out for the last 2 weeks. So the longer that he's out, the more that Tulane's going to be leaning on Toporek to try and step in. He's just a crafty lefty. And then Rodriguez to keep kind of carrying the workload here and try and ease some of the stress off of a bullpen, which runs 6, 7, 8 deep, but has been run out there a lot already this year.
I wanted to say one thing about the pitching that I've noticed is that, it's imperative that whoever the starter is gets off to a clean start, because in your last 28 games, you're 13-15. And in those 13 wins, they've only allowed 1 earned run in the first 2 innings. And in the 15 losses, they've allowed 40 runs in the first 2 innings. So, also after 2 innings, whoever's leading after 2 innings is 24-1. There's been some ties after 2, of course, but the only outlier was the game in Thibodeau against Nichols, where y'all were up 2-0 after 2 and ended up losing 5-6. Other than that, whoever's up after 2 innings wins the game. So I just wondered what you thought about that, getting off to a good start for the pitchers.
I mean, the 3 wins that Tulane racked up last week, JR, you got 2 at Wichita, you had 1 against Nichols. Tulane scored in the first inning and never let the lead go. And, I think maybe it traded hands once with Nichols, but my memory is horrible. But getting off to an early start and then needing your starting pitching to hang zeros up on the board, it's the Tulane's most runs allowed this year and against whomever they see. I'm double checking here the figure right now. Yeah, opponents score 29 runs against Tulane in the first inning, 26 in the second, 24 in the third. Those are the 3 highest scoring innings allowed by Tulane this year, first, second, and third in that order. Now, last year, Tulane's highest run scoring inning against was the first inning. That's not abnormal here. Starting pitching wasn't exactly a clean sheet last year either. They had some flamethrowers in the back end of their bullpen and last year, and they got a couple this year too. But last year had a lineup that could eat up deficits. And this year, this lineup has not been able to pull off late game rallies, string together big crooked number innings. And so when they're trailing early, it's a lot harder for Tulane to pull off wins because the offense just hasn't been able to climb back and show that ability to climb back with regularity.
Bubba. I think Bubba's can you hear him?
Sorry. No, I'm amateur mistake there. I left myself muted. But Jake Toporek, lefty, like I mentioned, transferred from Wagner. He was an all-conference performer there in 5 1/3 against Wichita State. Did not allow a run, just 3 hits, and it stood out 56 pitches to get those 16 outs. Extremely efficient. What can you tell us about his game and what pitches he brings to the table?
Toporek was getting the Shockers going after all his sliders and then his fastball, which sits maybe 91 with some sink to it, just had them way off tilt. Now, I know ECU hasn't seen Wichita State yet. That's a very good fastball hitting team. Whenever we were throwing anything off speed at them, they were dead to rights, to be honest. And now they've dealt with a train wreck of injuries in that lineup. That's not the same offense that the numbers would indicate right now, but all Toporek was doing is throwing sliders and sinkers at those guys. And then, frankly, his nastiest pitches are his changeups, and he's got 2 of them. And so, when he takes the diamond, he's going to be in and around the zone pretty regularly. And if he gets those early swings and the weak contact like he got in Wichita, then he's going to be able to sail into the middle of the game. Now, the way the ECU's offense works, weak contact can work for them. And I'm very well versed in how they operate. And so it doesn't necessarily mean success, but that is what Toporek is looking for. That's what he got Wichita State on. Same thing with Rodriguez, honestly. If he pitches this weekend, but Tulane is going to be TBA on Sunday. Like all Rodriguez is doing is throwing sliders and changeups at Wichita State. He pitched in the 7th. And so, So that's what those 2 guys were able to do. Rodriguez has a good 5-pitch arsenal. He can work fastballs in and around the zone, but he was dialing everything back against a Shockers team that just was kind of flailing at off-speed pitches, which they'll hope that East Carolina will do here as well starting tomorrow.
Yeah, J.D. Rodriguez, 6'5", 235-pound righty, 6 1/3, just that single run on 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, and no free passes against the Shockers. And I noticed earlier in the season he had, in a different role, I think this was 4 2/3 of relief, perhaps, shutout baseball, just 2 hits, 9 strikeouts against Loyola Marymount.
Yeah, that was a stretch relief outing. That was opening night. And he came in and really got Tulane in position to win that first game. Rodriguez has made 6 starts on the year. His ERA as a starter is down to 3.71. His ERA out of the bullpen is 3.18. That's probably the best split Tulane has, and they've asked a couple of guys to be that sort of start for us or swing relief for us. He has been – he was the Saturday guy to start last year, and it did not go well. And to the point where by the end of the year, I'm not even sure he pitched in the conference tournament. He was really kind of out of the mix by the time we got to May. Now he got a long relief role right off the bat, pitched well. He got a start at UCLA right after that. That did not go well. And so it was back to finding what to do with him. And since then, he's settled into a very good position where he's pretty dang versatile. And now he's been effective at the versatility. And so that's been a nice bright spot. When I sat down with Jay Ullman and pitching coach Anthony Izio before the year, they told me they felt they had 9-10 guys that they could realistically lean on to eat up 3-4 innings, like in swing relief role. And that's kind of ironically played out a little bit with how the starting pitching's gone. Like you're getting 3 innings. So that's kind of the regularity here for starting pitching, but they do have that. They do have some real options in the bullpen right now. And Rodriguez has been asked to do everything. And by and large, he's been successful at it. So if he will pitch at some point this weekend, whether he starts at the finale or whether he's in swing relief, like he's been a huge part of a bullpen that has had some very, very good things happen to it.
Yeah, you've referenced that quality bullpen several times throughout this conversation. So tell us some of those top arms. And you said there's some, as has been the case in the recent past with the Green Wave, that have pretty good velo.
Yeah, I mean the closer, Sam Larson. This is a Division III transfer from the Chicago area. His arsenal is similar to what Tulane had last year with Michael Lombardi. If you remember him, he started the title game against ECU last year in Clearwater. Fastball, over the top curveball. Not the velocity that Lombardi had. He could hit 97. Larson sits kind of in the 94 range of this fastball, but that 1-2 pitch mix is very similar to what Tulane had with their conference closer last year. Leading up to him, Bo Sampson has actually kind of become the 8th inning guy. big left-hander from Utah, transfers from Oklahoma. He was the Saturday starter. And there's been a knack here. I don't know what it's been. Guys who have started in the Saturday role for Tulane over the last couple of years have not wound up staying there and have wound up moving to the bullpen. But Sampson's been terrific in the bullpen, and not just a lefty matchup guy. Like he can touch 95, and he's got the movement to face right-handers too. And that has been really strong to see from a guy that I know Tulane was very high on heading into the year, just didn't materialize in the starting rotation. Jude Abadessa is a UConn transfer. He comes in with walks are an issue with him, but he can also get guys on his slider. Like that's his go-to pitch. Big right-hander from UConn. And then, I mentioned Rodriguez. Jack Brafa is another guy who will likely see time at some point this weekend. He can gobble up a couple of innings. Luis Pablo Navarro is a JUCO transfer, lefty sophomore. This is a real surprise. He had a brutal fall from everything that I was told. Was maybe not even going to be in a real discussion to be on these 30-man rosters. Now he's started a couple of games, and he's been good for inning and two-thirds stints here. And then Blaze Wilsinski is a name that might ring some bells for some Pirate fans. This is his third year here at Tulane. This guy is throwing sinkers and changeups and sweepers and getting weak contact, and he can eat up 3-4 innings. He has been a starter in the past here, but he's been used in that middle inning relief role and has been really effective at it. So those are some of the guys that if Tulane is full strength on the mound, which they're not right now, Rodriguez and Toporek maybe are in the bullpen here. But Toporek will definitely start. We'll see about Rodriguez. Frankel is right now, we just don't know. But Tulane's arms in the bullpen have really developed into easily the strength of this team, and there's options abound down there.
I see the Green Wave is fielding the baseball at a 973 clip, which isn't bad, but you referenced in kind of your opening remarks on this team some defensive lapses, at least particularly of late. So, and what can you say about Tulane with the glove?
Strange, to be totally frank. I think this might be the thing that has been the most aggravating to Jay Oman is that, Tuesday at Lamar, after a week of pretty clean baseball for this team, they go to Lamar and commit 2 errors in the first 4 batters. And they were just a rush throw, trying to start a double play that didn't need to be rushed, and just an Olay on a ball at third and didn't even touch it. And it's been that sort of stuff that has been, it tends to come in bunches when it's happened to this team. And that's been the head scratching of head scratching moments for this team. That's been the one that's been like, what was that? Like, what's happening here? That the other element of this is that, we haven't talked about the catchers yet for Tulane. Hugh Pinckney is back from last year, left-handed bat. Johnny Elliott, the Southern Cal transfer, is a right-handed bat. These two guys have pretty decent arms, but Tulane's only caught 6 runners all year long. It's been a major sore spot to that running games. Singles turn into doubles pretty fast here against Tulane. That's why the Green Wave will probably draw some ire as this weekend goes to Pirate fans watching, because their pitcher's going to throw to first a lot. And try and keep runners close by with what ECU will try and put in motion on the base paths. They're going to do everything in their damnedest here to keep runners close by, because it's been so rough to get consistent, good throws to second base from the 2 catchers right now. These 2 guys have essentially platooned all year long. And so that adds to the defensive side of things. That is, Jay Ullman would lump that into the defensive side, is holding running games down. That's been a real conundrum as to why that has not been, again, as successful as they thought it could have been heading into this year. So they're kind of miscues and bunches on the defensive side of the ball, and then the running game stuff, which has been just a real head scratcher.
One of the things that has been very noticeable and talked about quite a bit with this East Carolina offense, kind of a new spin on things tweaked a little bit as far as the approach, perhaps, with Jay Gautreaux, the Tulane great, as the ECU hitting coach. And JR, correct me if I'm wrong on these numbers, but I'm pretty sure in the Pirates' 9 American Conference games, that we're only striking out 3.7 times per game, which
Yeah.
is
33 times, correct.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
And we struck out 82, which is also, first in the conference. So we're first in strikeouts from the mound and first with the least amount of strikeouts at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's not a major surprise to me. Just even if it hasn't been Gotro there, and him being in town, like Tulane's honoring that 2001 World Series team this weekend. A lot of that team's going to be back in town, and because it's 25 years since that team, and Gotro was the centerpiece of that team in that lineup, and so that'll be a cool thing that happens this weekend. But I mean, with the way if Cliff Godwin's offense is working, it's the hit and runs, the first to thirds, the shows and slash, the show bunt, pull back, show bunt and bunt. Like, I mean, just it's wreak havoc offense. And so when it's going, and it's going right now, yeah, the strikeouts are going to be minimal. Like, that's a team that knows how to make contact. That's been a part of that DNA of that program for 12 years now. So I'm not shocked that the strikeout numbers are low. Tulane strikeout numbers in the mound are pretty good. They're third in the league coming into this weekend. The strikeout per 9 has been strong all year. These guys have some stuff that they've walked their fair share of batters. That's always been part of this here as well. But they've gotten some miss. They've gotten some swing and miss here. Can they get that against an ECU lineup that's been this solid making contact? That obviously will remain to be seen.
Corey, as we're wrapping up the conversation, of course, always appreciate your time, spending a little over a half hour with us, breaking down this matchup. But as you know, having been a part of the ECU program, I guess, for 6 years, East Carolina fans travel well. No matter the sport, they always bring a good crowd there to the Big Easy. And with that being the case, what advice can you give for those that haven't been there before, as far as parking? Obviously, no shortage of things to do, and so on and so forth.
Parking is almost non-existent. So if you're renting a car, keep that at your hotel or Airbnb. Also, the roads in New Orleans are just dreadful. We're 13 feet under sea level. The infrastructure is 100 years old. We got water mains breaking every other day. Like, the roads are, like, you're seeing the photos from the Artemis 2 of the moon right now. Those are roads in New Orleans. And so my advice to you, take an Uber to Turchin Stadium. Or if you're staying in downtown, I'll give you this. If you're coming to New Orleans, you're likely trying to stay in downtown near the French Quarter. Hop on the St. Charles streetcar and ride that through the Garden District and through Uptown, and get off at the Tulane University stop. And that's at the very south end of campus. The baseball stadium's in the very north end of campus, but it's a tiny campus. It's about a 10-minute walk from south side to north side. It's going to be beautiful all weekend. So that would be my advice. Take the streetcar, get off at Tulane and Audubon Park at that stop, and walk through campus. It's a beautiful campus, and come to the game that way. And don't worry about trying to find a place to park your car or dealing with the roads or anything like that. That's my advice for heading into games coming up this weekend. If you want restaurant or food recommendations, I mean, my God, what a town. If you want to spend some dough and you're staying in downtown, I'm going to give out free ads here. So I hope none of my bosses are listening to this, because I don't know if I'm going to say partners fully here. Desi Vegas Steakhouse is just some of the best steak I've ever had. That's in downtown. Pesh, a seafood joint, ungodly good. Like small plates, blow your mind type seafood stuff. It is crawfish season here. And so if you've never dabbled in the world of crawfish, you could find them everywhere. My personal favorite is out of downtown, called Clessy's, which is in Mid-City. That also has maybe my favorite restaurant in town, named Katie's. Those are, like, you're not going to go wrong here finding food. If you want a po' boy, Parkway Bakery is the icon spot. Guy's Po' Boys or Domalice's Po' Boys. Jersey Deli in not far from campus is called Francolini's. That'll blow your mind. Great taco place right across the street from there as well, called Barracuda. Like, listen, like you're gonna leave 10 pounds heavier. Sorry. That's why you do the walk. That's why you use a streetcar walk back and forth up campus, because to burn off all the calories you're about to eat.
And I guess Cafe Du Monde for a beignet, right?
Sure. Yes.
I'm drinking chicory coffee right now.
Yeah,
I swear.
yeah. I mean, like, if you want to put Cafe Du Monde into tourist trap territory, I would understand that. But it also, like, the locals go there. Like, I mean, it's a tourist trap that does the job great. Like, I got a Cafe Du Monde not far from my house. Do I walk over there and get beignets? You bet your ass I do. Like, I mean, it's like that, like, yeah, Parkway Bakery is kind of a touristy trap as well, but they're so good at what they do. Like, it's not like watered down drinks in Vegas. Like, if you kind of see that analogy, like the Cafe Du Monde beignets are worth the hype. And so, go. If you go to the Icon location right off Jackson Square, it's cash only. So keep that in mind.
I know JR has one more question for you before we wrap things up. But yeah, my lone trip to New Orleans came back in 2012 when the Pirates played Louisiana in the New Orleans Bowl. And regretfully, I was unable to make it to check out the Tulane campus. So that's definitely on the list, along with several other things whenever I get back. So go ahead, JR.
Well, I was just going to say with the beignets, don't even waste your money trying to get the to-go mix that you can make at home, because you have no shot of them turning out anything that would resemble what you're going to get at Cafe Du Monde.
And also be careful of getting them to go at the restaurant. They do not travel great. Like, the powdered sugar gets all gummy and stuff as it gets cold. So, like, sit down at the table, eat them fresh with a cup of coffee, or it's going to be 80 degrees. I like the frozen cafe au laits as well. If you do that, actually just take the time and do that. Don't try and bring them back to the hotel or anything like that. Don't try and bring them on the plane. They're not going to travel.
Okay, so here's my question, and let me know if I'm reading too much into this, but you're just talking about the uniqueness of New Orleans, the uniqueness of Louisiana, as a whole. Okay, so right now, position player wise, we have 0 hits and 0 starts from a Louisiana product. And pitching wise, you just have Trey Sahajic and Jacob Moore, who've pitched a combined 38.1 innings, which is like 13% of the total innings pitched. They have 1 of the 17 wins. Now let's just go back to 2023. You had 10 players, 8 of which were, key contributors. Gavin Schultz, Brady Hebert, Brennan Lambert, Jacob LaPierre, Braden Morrow, Dylan Carmouche, Brian Valgoski, Chandler Welch, and then Will Times and Lane Thomas, pitched a little bit. But out of them, you had they started 43.4% of the games, 238 starts out of 549, and they had 304 total bases. They had 11 of the 19 wins that season. Is it a case of it's just transfer portal and players are just coming from all over? But I just feel like it's a shame that Tulane, doesn't have that Louisiana connection like they used to. And I know Coach Ullman is from California, and right now, California has
a lot of
5. They have a lot of players, and so does Hawaii and Florida, obviously, as far as starts. So, am I reading too much into it, or no?
No, I wouldn't say you're reading too much into it. You're reading into it what it is. This team is built through transfer portal. And it is $90,000 to go to school here, and this is not a full scholarship sport. And so that's where that comes into play, where Tulane, they had the number that you mentioned in 2023, but this has kind of been the deal now for about 10 years, where it's not as New Orleans and Louisiana born and bred on this program. That's the case for most of the sports here. football has a good crop of Louisianans, but there's also more opportunities and more scholarships there for football. And now Tulane football isn't necessarily in the they get who they want spot, but they're pretty close. And so they can kind of do that. They can keep guys home in an area that has such great football talent here. This area has great baseball talent here as well, but with the cost it is to come to Tulane, Tulane's pretty good in the NIL world, comparatively speaking, around the American. And so that has helped bring some folks in as well. But you are jockeying for position. It's the one sport that is still like teams are still trying to lean somewhat regional. And there's a lot of competition for that here with LSU down the road, with Louisiana not far away, Southeastern Louisiana, UNO, Nichols. Like these are all teams that are still trying to keep in state, and they have stronger pitches just straight up in terms of tuition that they can do. And LSU can do whatever they want, obviously, but the other schools, you are kind of fighting for room for the local talent with that, whereas Tulane has the ability to go far and wide. And so that's also part of this as well. Jay Ullman is a California guy. He's not like deeply rooted in California, but he recruits all around the nation. And so like the pitch is very strong from this program where you can come from wherever and make a home here. Tulane has not bled a ton of talent in the transfer portal under Jay Ullman. And so that is out here as well, where you can come in and stick around for a while and really develop and grow into something, whether you are from New Orleans, Louisiana, which we have a freshman outfielder here from New Orleans, or whether you're from Honolulu, like Tanner Chun. Like, I mean, it's just Tulane has the ability to spread their wings out from coast to coast and even further off the coast with two guys here on this team from Hawaii. And so they're able to do that. Part of that is the constraints that they have financially too. And you need to go after guys that maybe can absorb only 25% of a scholarship because of what the tuition is. And so that also limits some of the pool they can tap into here locally.
Okay.
Corey, what you're saying as far as the finances of things with tuition there at Tulane, and then also you mentioned that word scholarships. It's been well documented that scholarship number going from 11.7 to 34. You have some programs like a Coastal Carolina that's won a national title and then played for one last year, coming up just shy against LSU. They're funding 34 scholarships. East Carolina somewhere in that mid to upper 20s range, I believe. Obviously with Tulane being private, you don't see a lot of these things, so you guys may not want that disclosed. But any light you can shed there, and I know I've heard you in other interviews, perhaps Pirate Radio or otherwise, talk about how you believe that South Florida is probably the best funded baseball program in the conference right now.
Yeah, that they are. I mean, just straight up, they're almost every one of their sports is the most well funded in the American, save for, I don't think they caught up to Memphis basketball this year, and I don't think they caught up to Memphis football this year. I believe they got past us in football this year. But they're throwing money at everything. Like they just started beach volleyball, and that's fully funded this year. Like, it's stuff like that where like South Florida has dug into some couch cushions here to clearly try and position themselves for a move out of the American. Just it seems very clear. But in terms of Tulane, that we don't disclose what that is unless it's a Jay Ullman that comes out and says it, or the athletic department. So I know we're not in the 30s. I don't know how much the increase was from the 11.7 heading into this year. I know that is a primary point of discussion for Jay Ullman because, I don't know if anybody in this league would go to 34 except for maybe South Florida. But, for where Tulane is with how much it costs to go here, this baseball program is getting a good amount of NIL, but it's not, it falls behind a football here, even falls behind basketball here in terms of just how much they're getting. And so that will be something that has definitely been a discussion point with Jay Ullman and the athletic director, David Harris, about where that scholarship number needs to be in order for Tulane to be where it wants to be as a program. And where it wants to be is, I mean, it's a program that's played for 3 straight titles. And so, like, it's in a decent spot right now as is, but where can this go where it's not you're not banking on a week in Clearwater, that sort of thing. And so we'll see what the discussions are like coming up in the summer to increase that. But I know it's very paramount for that to happen. I think for all parties here, that something gets increased in that so that Tulane doesn't start falling behind with the public schools in the American. I mean, it's Tulane and Rice that are kind of the ones that are the tuition is way up there. And so now they're trying to find a way to bump that up here. And part of that will have to be increased scholarships here.
Again, Corey, really appreciate the time. This weekend, 7:30 on Friday and Saturday, 2:00. And of course, those times are Eastern, 6:30.
You're on Eastern time.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say 6:30 and 1 p.m. Central time. There at Turchin Stadium, Greer Field. So any Pirate fans that may like to tune in and hear the opposing side of things, and tell them how they can listen to your broadcast.
The Varsity Network app is probably the cleanest way. I know some folks on last night's show found our flagship on TuneIn or went to their website. And so WRBH is our flagship if you want to find their website and listen wherever you might be. And I do want to say, I was leaving the ballpark today, and I was leaving. It was like 5:15, and I was leaving just as the ECU bus was pulling up, and so I was able to say hi to. I mean, the number's dwindling in terms of who is in that bus that I was around for, but now some of these guys are showing up as coaches, and so obviously, like, I got to seeing Cliff and Austin and Jeff, and I've known those guys forever. But then, Thomas Francisco, a part of that staff, and who my dad loved, like I would have left my wife or left my mom for Thomas Francisco. Then, I remember as I was researching yesterday, I was starting to work on the series here, and I saw the staff director, and I saw Jake Agnos, and I thought I saw that pop up last year, but again, my memory is just dreadful. And so I saw him kind of walk off the bus too. And I didn't know if he'd be on this trip because he's a kind of a grad manager here. So it's been forever since I've seen Jake Agnos. And so to see him was really cool. And so I'm down to, I think, Bryant Packard, if he was there, I didn't see him. I'll see him tomorrow if he is here. But I think I'm down to 6 in terms of people in that program that I overlapped with in some capacity. None of them play anymore. And so it makes me feel, unlike last night where JR can allude to this, that makes me feel extremely old. That's nobody that played on my final team there is still playing ball at East Carolina. Riley Johnson was my last overlap, and he's done now. And so, but to catch up with those guys a little bit here tonight was pretty cool. And obviously I'll be seeing them as the weekend goes.
Yeah, very cool to have Thomas Francisco, now director of operations, and then Jake Agnos back in kind of a student manager role, I think, working with the pitchers. And then obviously Bryant Packard as director of player development after he had kind of been in that student manager role and was able to move into his new role when Heath Blackman became the pitching coach at App State during the offseason. But as always, Corey, appreciate the time. And how can Pirate fans follow you on social media?
At that right there, at Corey Gloor.
At Corey Gloor, that's simple, Pirate fans. But
on Twitter, X, and Instagram, and that's pretty much it that I have. I have a Facebook account. I'm never on it, so please don't reach out there.
But as always, really appreciate the time, Corey. Your Pirate Nation, that is the former play-by-play voice of East Carolina baseball from, I guess, 2016 to 2021, and now has been down calling the action in multiple sports for the Green Wave since, I guess, the fall of 2021. But for Johnny Robertson, Corey Gloor, I'm Bub Rosenbaum. You've been watching, listening to On Deck here on Jungle Tales. We'll talk to you soon. And as always, go Pirates.